I'm staring at my banking app, and it's doing that thing where it calls my money available balance, like it's a personality trait. And I'm thinking, why does it feel like the bank already decided who I am before I even tap login? If you've got less than 5,000 in there, you're basically invisible. If you've got six figures, suddenly people want to help. That's not you getting nicer. That's the bank switching you into a different class. Here's the deal. Banks run a quiet ranking system, not a credit score, a relationship score. They sort you by how much money you keep with them, how predictable you are, and how profitable you look. And once you see it, you can use it. We're going to do three things. First, I'll show you how the class system actually works and what banks count. Then I'll show you the two traps people fall into when they try to climb. Finally, I'll give you a clean way to move up without donating your future to fees, idle cash, or ego. And to make this feel real, if you're paying a monthly fee like $15, that's $180 a year. If a higher tier waives it, that's not a perk. That's money back in your pocket every single year too. Look, if money stuff feels awkward, you're not alone. Most people never get told the rules, they just get billed by them. So why do banks even have classes in the first place? Because the bank's business is basically spread and scale. They want lots of people doing predictable things. And they want your deposits to be cheap funding. If the bank can pay you close to zero on checking, then turn around and lend money out at, say, 6 or 7%, that spread is the whole game. Even when rates are different, the idea stays the same. Your boring deposits are valuable to them. Then you've got card swipe revenue. Every time you use a debit card, the merchant pays a fee and the bank gets a cut. It's small per swipe, but it adds up when millions of people do it every day. And then you've got fees. Some fees are punishment fees, like overdrafts. Some are convenience fees, like wires. Either way, fees tend to hit the people the bank thinks are least likely to leave. So your rank isn't about being liked. It's about whether the bank thinks you'll be low maintenance, profitable, and loyal. And the score isn't just how much cash is here. It's a mix of signals. Big signal, average balances. The bank doesn't care if you touch 100,000 for a day. They care if you keep, say, 25,000 sitting there month after month because that money is stable and cheap for them. Another signal is direct deposit. When your paycheck hits their system every 2 weeks, the bank reads that as, this person's employed, this person's consistent, this person's less likely to bounce. That's why direct deposit unlocks fee waivers so often. It's not a reward, it's risk math. They also watch activity. Lots of small card swipes tells them you're a sticky customer. A checking account that sits empty with no activity tells them you're using them as a pass-through. And then there's product depth. If you've got checking, savings, a credit card, and maybe an investment account, you're harder to replace. That's why the perks get better when you bring one more thing into their ecosystem. One more signal is how expensive you are to serve. If you're constantly overdrafting, calling support, disputing charges, or bouncing payments, you cost them time. If you keep a buffer and your bills clear cleanly, you're easy. Easy customers get nicer treatment because the bank can afford to. That's why two people can have the same salary and the one with calmer money habits gets the better lane. Even your account age matters because banks trust patterns more than promises. None of this is about gaming. It's about understanding why the bank behaves differently when you cross a line and choosing which lines are worth crossing. Now we can name the classes. At the bottom is what I'd call the retail lane. That's most basic checking, basic savings, and the standard customer support line. In this lane, the bank's goal is simple. Keep you from costing them too much and charge you when you forget the rules. That's where you see monthly service fees, overdraft fees, and the kind of requirements that feel like a pop quiz. Keep a minimum daily balance, set up direct deposit, do a certain number of debit swipes, whatever. It's not personal, it's a filter. Then there's the next lane up, relationship banking. This is where the bank starts acting like you're worth keeping. Not because you're special, but because your balances and your behavior tell them you're profitable. Most big banks draw their first meaningful line somewhere in the tens of thousands. Think 20,000, 30,000, maybe 50,000. That's often the point where fees start disappearing, ATM reimbursements show up, and you stop getting treated like a problem to manage. Cross into six figures, and you hit the preferred zone. That's where the language changes. You get a different phone number, faster support, maybe better rate discounts, and a banker who's suddenly available on your schedule. Push past that and you'll see private client or premier type labels. A lot of banks put that line around 150,000 to 250,000 in combined balances. And at 7 figures and up, you'll start hearing private banking, where lending and investments get a lot more customized. Now here's the part most people miss. Banks don't rank you by what's sitting in your checking account today. They rank you by what you look like over time. Some banks use average daily balance, which means every up and down all month gets averaged out. Some use statement ending balance, which means the number on the day your statement closes can matter way more than the rest of the month. Others use a combined average monthly balance across deposits and investments. So your checking, savings, and brokerage accounts get blended together. This is why two people with the same income can land in totally different classes. If your account spikes on payday and then drains back down for rent, childcare, and credit cards, you might see 10,000 in there for a day. But the bank might average you closer to 3,000 or 4,000. Meanwhile, someone with a smaller paycheck but steady balances looks richer to the bank because they're cheaper to serve and easier to predict. One mistimed transfer can bump you down. One boring month of consistency can bump you up. So when you ask, where do I rank? The real question is, what does the bank count as my relationship balance? Tonight, open your bank app and find your average balance or statement ending balance for the last couple months. Then add in any linked savings and investment accounts so you know what the bank thinks you're worth. Because once you know your number, you can stop guessing completely. Now let's talk about what you actually get when you move up a class. Because this is where people either get smarter or get sold. The obvious stuff is fees. Monthly maintenance fees, ATM fees, wire fees. Waiving a $10 fee doesn't feel life-changing, but do it across multiple fees across 10 years. And you're talking about thousands of dollars you didn't have to earn. And overdrafts are the big one. If you get hit with an overdraft fee a couple times a year, that's not oops, that's a leak. 2 overdrafts in a year can be the same cost as a nice dinner, and you don't even remember what you bought. Higher tiers often reduce those leaks with better alerts, bigger buffers, or more forgiveness, because they want you to stay. The less obvious benefit is friction. In the retail lane, you're waiting on hold, you're getting bounced between departments, and you're getting the script. In the higher lanes, you get faster problem solving. Then there's lending. Banks love predictable deposits and loans that pay them interest. When you have both, you're a great customer, so they'll sometimes shave a little off a rate or push an approval through faster. 0.25% on a mortgage isn't flashy, but on a $300,000 loan over decades, it can be thousands of dollars. Now, that sounds like a cheat code. It can be, but it can also be a trap, because the bank's perks are often paid for with your own money in ways you don't notice. Common mistake. People chase status by parking cash in the wrong place. They hear, keep 100,000 with us to get the perks. And they do it by dumping 100,000 into a checking account, paying basically nothing. The bank smiles, you get the fancy debit card, and your money quietly stops working. Say you keep $50,000 extra sitting idle because you want to stay in a higher tier. If you could have earned 4% somewhere else, that's about $2,000 a year, every year. That's the bank's favorite trade. You feel upgraded, they get cheap funding, and you get a story. A better approach is to separate where your money lives from how your money works. If the bank counts linked brokerage balances, you can hold investments there without leaving piles of cash asleep in checking. If they don't, you can still keep only what's needed for the tier and move the rest to wherever it earns more. Common mistake. People confuse bank tiers with being rich. A higher tier doesn't mean you're winning. It means you're profitable. Banks aren't giving you perks out of kindness. They're trying to lock you in so you'll borrow more, invest through them, and stay put when a better option shows up. Here's a story that happens all the time. A guy I'll call Marcus hits about 120,000 in combined balances. He's proud. He should be. That's not easy. His bank bumps him into a nicer tier and the tone changes overnight. Then the conversation shifts. The banker says, "Since you're a valued client, we can offer you a special investment solution." Translation: a product with higher fees than a plain index fund. Marcus doesn't feel like he's being sold. He feels like he's being taken care of. So he moves money into a managed portfolio with an annual fee around 1%. 1% doesn't sound like much? It's 1 out of 100. But on $200,000, that's $2,000 a year. On $500,000, that's $5,000 a year. If that fee drags your return down by 1% for 20 years, the gap can turn into tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, depending on the balance and the market. That's not dramatic. That's math. So here's the line you've got to hold. Bank perks are great, but you're not paying for them with your future. Now let's talk about the middle zone, because this is where people get weird. When you hit that first relationship tier, it feels like you made it. And that's when lifestyle creep sneaks in dressed like I deserve it. You stop caring about small leaks because you shouldn't have to worry about that anymore. You upgrade subscriptions, you upgrade the car, you upgrade the weekend, and your savings rate quietly drops. If you're investing $1,000 a month and you cut that to $500, that's $6,000 less invested every year. Over 10 years, that's $60,000 less contributed before growth even shows up. And it's sneaky because your life feels better, so you assume your money's improving too. But the chart doesn't care about vibes. It cares about the gap. Some banks are great, some are a mess, and you might have to test a couple to find what works. Now, I want you to see the bank relationship as 3 jobs, because it keeps you from mixing up perks with progress. It's got to handle cash flow. Your paycheck lands, your bills clear. You can send money where it needs to go without drama. It's got to handle safety, emergency fund, sinking funds for predictable big costs, and enough buffer that an annoying week doesn't turn into an overdraft spiral. And it can handle leverage, the tier benefits and lending terms that save you money, as long as you're not buying them with dead cash or high fees. And here's the key. The bank wants your whole life in one place. Your job is to decide which parts belong there. Sometime in the next few days, call your bank and ask a simple question. What relationship tier am I in? What balance do you use to measure it, and which fees or rate discounts come with it? Then write it down like it's a utility bill. Now, what ranking up looks like depends on where you are. Under 10,000 in total balances, the win is stability and no fees. Between 10,000 and 50,000, the win is getting fee waivers without keeping a bunch of extra cash asleep. Between 50,000 and 150,000, the win is avoiding expensive products and letting compounding do its job. Because one bad move here can set you back years. Above that, you can negotiate more, but you still use the same rule. Take the benefits that reduce friction, skip anything that adds recurring costs. So how do you use the class system without getting played by it? You run your own scorecard, and it's 3 totals you can't argue with. Start with plain fees. Add up what you paid last year in monthly account charges, ATM fees, overdrafts, and random service charges. If that total is more than a couple $100, the bank's charging you rent for your own money. Then calculate the sleepy cash cost. If you're holding extra cash for tier status, multiply that extra amount by a reasonable cash yield you could get elsewhere. Even 3% on 50,000 is around $1,500 a year. Then look at product drag. Any advisory fee or management fee tied to investments gets multiplied by your balance every year. 1% on 200,000 is 2,000. And here's a quick gut check that's actually useful. If the perks you're getting don't beat those totals, you're paying to feel important. Another common mistake is fragmentation. People spread their money across too many places because it feels safer, but then they look small everywhere and lose the perks they actually care about. A better approach is to consolidate strategically, not emotionally. Keep one primary bank for daily life. Keep one primary place for investing. They can be the same company or different, but pick them on purpose. If you like having a backup bank for emergencies, cool. But your main balances should be intentional because that's what creates leverage. Now let's talk about the part people really want. How do I rank up fast? The honest answer is you don't rank up by switching logos. You rank up by increasing the gap between what you make and what you spend, consistently. If you can invest $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. Do that for 10 years, and you've put in $120,000 before growth. If your money grows at 7% on average, that ends up a lot bigger. If you can push that to $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year. Over 10 years, that's $240,000 contributed, and the compounding gets loud. At $100,000 invested, a 7% year is about $7,000. At 300,000, that's about 21,000. At 500,000, that's about 35,000. And here's what people don't expect. Once the growth gets that big, your job becomes not messing it up. The winners aren't the ones who found a secret stock. They're the ones who kept investing through the boring months and didn't blow the plan up when the news got loud. So bank classes are like airline status. It's nice when it makes your life smoother, but it's not the trip. The trip is building actual wealth. Before your next payday hits, set one automatic transfer that moves money out of idle checking the day after your check lands, even if it's only $50, because the habit matters more than the first amount. Now, I'm going to give you two examples because examples make this click. One example, you're sitting around $30,000 total across checking and savings. Your bank charges a monthly fee unless you keep a minimum balance. You can avoid the fee with direct deposit anyway, so you set that up. You keep a buffer for bills, and you move the rest to a place where your cash actually earns something. In that setup, you get the fee waiver, you avoid overdrafts, and your cash stops being dead weight. Another example, you've got $200,000 in investments, and you keep about $15,000 for bills. Your bank invites you into a premier tier if you bring investments under their umbrella. You run the scorecard. If the platform is low cost and there's no advisory fee, moving could get you better service and fee waivers without costing you returns. If it's high fee or pushy, you keep investments where they are and you let the bank relationship be basic. Either way, you win because you chose the deal instead of letting the deal choose you. One last thing that can quietly change your rank: how your bank measures you. If your bank cares about average daily balance, big swings can hurt you. If your bank cares about statement ending balance, the statement date matters more than you'd think. You don't need to play games, you just need to know the scoreboard, then keep your buffer steady enough that the bank sees consistency without you holding extra cash you don't need. So, where do you rank? You rank wherever your bank's relationship balance puts you. But your real rank is how much leverage you have over your own life. Banks aren't judging you as a person. They're sorting you as an account. Use the perks that reduce friction and fees. Ignore the perks that demand idle cash or high recurring costs. If you do that, you'll climb classes almost by accident, because the thing that truly moves you up is building a bigger, steadier pile of assets over time. Next time, I'll show you the exact phrases that get fees reversed and limits raised without sounding like a jerk. Keep going. This stuff gets easier the moment you start seeing the system clearly, and your future self is going to be glad you did. Subscribe for more straight-up money strategy like this.